welcome to the AdDiTude Lounge, where we promote living a life well lived through the magic of doing what you love. The AdDiTude Lounge is not just a podcast. I'm trying to build it into an experience, but it is a space where creative people come to share their stories, their experiences, their journeys that they're on. And so we want to celebrate those people who come to us. So thank you for coming. We have today AMAC McGuire. And Allie is, oh my God, Allie, you have so much going on.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
So first and foremost, your business is Amaculent Mindset.
Correct. Yeah.
Right? And that's where you hold everything through there. You tunnel everything through your Immaculate. You also just released a book that's called The Inner Compass. Mm-hmm. And it's it deals with like some of the how to kind of balance your life when you're in this creative world, so that you don't get burned out, right? And so that you can see how success can be maybe different than what you thought it was. These are journeys. You're also a mentor. So these are the kind of things that you, teach people. Let's talk a little bit about that, because I know you wanted to talk about what success means to you. But also we want to, give a shout out for all the things you have, including your album On One, which is dope, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much. Very, very proud of the album and the workbook and myself.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Amaculent Mindset is like the business that it's all under, because it's just like my mindset. I always tell people like all of this stuff, I don't have any of the answers for you. Like, exactly. I'm not sitting here trying to be a guru and telling you, like, if you do this, and this is going to happen for you. I'm just, sharing my story and the tools that I built to help me answer my questions for myself, and in hopes to just, like, encourage you to know that you're not alone, and, yeah, to encourage you to have your own story with yourself, whatever that looks like. Right. And so the Inner Compass framework is the book, and what I built to help you become self-aware. It's about how to navigate your life and your career through self-awareness, because I navigated my last career as an audio engineer not being self-aware, and there are like levels to self-awareness, and wherever I am in that level, but I was definitely not. It's just funny, like, how you can think you're really self-aware and not be.
Oh, totally guilty. I mean, we were chatting a little bit before that, but totally guilty of that. It's almost like I feel like as I get older, I'm growing emotionally, spiritually, and I see life differently. And also your experiences, So I totally get that, how you can be, like, you can think everything's under control, but it may not be.
For sure. I mean, even as much as, like, me, like, believing that I loved myself, and then finding out that I really didn't, is crazy. There's also levels to loving yourself, right? Yes. Like,
some people can really love on this.
Sure. But like, there's still places for me like that I know I can elevate in that area and stuff. And that's why I like, the book, the album accompanies the workbook as well. So it's the story of how I went from hating myself to loving myself. That is the arc. And I take you through it throughout. And yeah, I lost my train of thought.
That's okay. That's what we do here. Hey, it's okay. And the thing is, we're real, right? Where I'm not,
That's right.
Yeah, because in reality, the amount, and especially as an editor, like the amount of stuff you have to do until the final, outcome, you have. And so it is what it is, guys, right? You tell,
everybody loses their train of thought.
I do it all the time.
That's right.
I may be hiding it a little bit, but I do it all the time.
Well, what it means to be immaculate is to be perfectly imperfect.
Bravo.
So yeah, it's like
It is.
I'm just a human. I can't be a perfect human in interviews or any single moment of the day.
Yeah, and I think in this society that I guess we live in, I'm going to say at least we're from this area, that I feel that, and even in my work experience, that people have pursued, and I'm going to say even myself, pursued the perfection, and
Sure.
and
Yeah.
it doesn't exist, and you're wasting time when you're pursuing it because then you're not living your life. That's how I see it. There's so much that we can live for.
Well, when you're going after perfectionism, like it's just not for you, it's for everybody else.
Hmm. True.
And yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's what thanks. Yeah.
And for me, and that's like you like living in your insecurities, your ego is what I call it, but I think people just think ego is like a boosted like confidence, but ego is really just your insecurities.
Mhm.
And that's what people who have like a large ego like that are doing, covering up their insecurities. So you're like, if I'm perfect, if I do this thing correctly, exactly how this person wants it done, then I won't get any conflict back, and that
Mhm.
won't be a reflection of who I am. I did that a lot with my work, and I talk about it that I actually think it made me a worse mix engineer because I was striving for perfectionism on the first mix instead of just me being myself and understanding that whatever comes back obviously is not a reflection of like who I am as a person or my worth,
Mhm.
right? But
Right.
so many people think your worth is inherent, like period. So whether it's your relationships, work, or any other kind of interaction you can have in life,
Yeah.
like you're not going to be perfect for the other person or the other thing anyway. So might as well take some risks and see what and who is actually for you.
Mhm.
And even if I sent a mix back to a client and they didn't like it, it doesn't even mean that the mix was bad.
Right.
It just would mean that it wasn't for them,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
And you can either kind of take feedback. I don't get me wrong, like getting criticized and somebody telling you like something you did wasn't good or it was wrong or any of that stuff is not it's not easy,
Mhm.
to take, because none of this work is like about just making things easy for yourself. It's about being able to have the capacity when things are hard,
Right.
so you can either take it as like, oh my gosh, like I'm such a terrible mix engineer or person or this or that, like, and you're so insecure, or you take it as like, this person doesn't know what they're talking about, like I'm correct, they're wrong, like da 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 da. Or you can get, curious about what's happening and see how
Mhm.
you can get creative in the process, or just learn and move on, or even how can you help that person actually achieve what they're looking for, because isn't that the actual goal?
Right. Right. Yeah, because you may have a vision that's not theirs, but once you share that vision too, it could be a very positive, enriching, relationship and connection. Because sometimes I think, like, I could say that I sometimes don't reach out to people and whatnot, because I think, oh, they're busy, and well, I don't want to get in their way, because I do value people's time. But then sometimes it turns into, oh, she don't be calling, and then it's like, well, you're not calling either.
Right.
So I can see where, like, like the how we sometimes are hard on ourselves, right? Because we're expecting that perfection, and when somebody returns something, it's like when you're in school, right? And you get the paper and it's all scribbled back, the test you got, and all red marks, and you're like, but I studied, but I did this. What happens, and it just could have been like, well, you worded it in a different way. But in your mixing, let's also talk about how you are a platinum, right? You have a platinum
Yeah, yeah.
engineer. You have a
I'm
platinum
like I'm like
engineering.
many things. So I
Well,
was
that right.
like,
You're an
the
author.
drama.
You're a music performer, artistry. I mean, and that's the thing. Like artistry like encompasses so many beautiful things that sometimes people don't even look at it. Like
Sure.
it's like little bits and pieces of little things in life. I love art, and my love for art actually came when, well, how can I don't know. When I was 8, my mom, I was living in Brooklyn, in Coney Island to be specific, and I was on the corner of, was it Surf Avenue, and we went into a drugstore, and she came out with one of those cheap Kodak like cameras,
Hmm.
and she says, "Here," she says, "you can now, start taking pictures of everything you see and how you see it." And I feel like that might have been like that big moment where to this day I take lots of pictures of everything, and I find beauty in different things in pictures, not necessarily of people, but just sometimes I'll go hiking and I'll do that. So when did your love for artistry start? Like,
I mean, I fell in love with music really. Do you know the movie Hardball with Keanu Reeves?
I feel like I've watched a lot of Keanu Reeves, but I don't know if I've watched that one.
So there's a movie from the early 2000s, maybe 99, 2000, 2001, somewhere around there, where Keanu Reeves has to coach this kids baseball team as like his punishment for something he did. And in the movie, the pitcher can only pitch if he's listening to Big Papa by Biggie Smalls. And yeah, when I watched that movie, I was just kind of like immediately changed. And so this was when Napster was like kind of at its peak.
Oh my God. Okay.
So, I went home and like basically told my mom, like, you're not making any calls because I'm going to be on the internet and I'm going to be, it's so crazy. It used to take like 24 hours to download a song on the internet. I'm going to download all of this artist, the Notorious B.I.G.'s, work and as much as I could. And then I started asking, like, I was like, Mom, I need all of these albums. I'm Biggie Smalls' #1 fan. um, and yeah, that's like when I fell in love with music because, and it's crazy because I was like this 11-year-old white girl, you know what I mean? And, I'm sure, Biggie was never ever making music for me. You know what I mean? In mind, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But I don't know. For whatever it was, I just connected with it, the struggle, the hopefulness in the music as well. You know, a lot of people will listen to, it's considered gangster rap, right? And only hear like the drug selling and
Mm.
like all of the bad stuff. And but hip hop was about sharing the struggle, right? It was about telling their stories, and not only their stories but other people's stories.
The
It wasn't
hood.
always about just talking about your life. It was about telling everybody's
Yeah,
life
yeah.
and sharing stories, kind of like we're doing right now.
Yeah. What's happening in the hood? Like, yo, check it out. So and so is in the corner, you know?
Right. But yeah, so that was their life, and but you could hear, like, as difficult as it was, the hope that that wasn't always going to be that way.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I don't know. Biggie Smalls just changed my life, and I loved music, and there's like a lot of signs in my life that I was gonna end up doing music, but I really like as a kid I didn't get into it. I wanted to make beats probably when I was 15, and my parents told me like, no, you quit everything. And I did quit a lot of things, but they had me in like baton class and tap dancing, and I just didn't want to do those things. And I've always been very no oriented.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But you were looking for the thing that you did like.
Oh,
That's why
right.
kids quit. Like sometimes parents put kids in a particular in dancing and sports or something, and it's not for them.
For sure. So yeah, I've always quit a lot,
Hmm.
but I don't quit the things that I want to
Hmm.
do, and I go
All
after
right.
them crazy. But yeah, so they were like, you can't do that. But then I went to NACAC, just going to community college here, and for journalism, I kept failing everything. Didn't find out for like another 15 years that I've been dyslexic my whole life.
Hmm.
So, trying to go to school for journalism and not being able to see when you make spelling mistakes is
Hmm.
going to get you a lot of F's
Hmm.
on papers. So one day I just went to the administrative office and decided I was going to drop out of college without telling anybody I was going to do it. I went back in my car.
But you actually went into an office and said, I'm
Yeah.
signing out.
Yeah.
That's smart. A lot
Yeah.
of people don't. A lot of people just walk out and then they're left with this other like stuff.
Yeah. Well, I dropped out like 3 days after you could get any kind of refund.
Yeah.
You know, so that was like fun. And I lived with my parents at the time, and got in my car and I was like, man, I need to like go home and tell them I have some kind of idea what I'm going to do. And the only tattoo I had at the time was Biggie lyrics, and it says, stay far from timid, only make moves when your heart's in it, and live the phrase, sky's the limit. So I was like, okay. I was like, well, I wanted to make beats like that one time when I was 15. I'll do that. And I went to the library and like looked up producing, and it's still a mystery to me why I chose audio engineering, because I went for audio engineering. I did not go for production. I did not go for beat making. I went for audio engineering to just this 6-month school. And yeah.
Was that school here or?
Sheffield Institute for the Recording Arts in Baltimore.
Okay.
Yeah, so I moved to Baltimore by myself when I was 19, looking like I was like 11. I was like baby face. It's crazy. I look at my driver's license for when I was 18. I was like, I can't believe.
Yeah, but you know what's interesting though? So you dropped out of NCC and you knew you still needed to do something. You weren't just going to like sit there and let life pass you by. So then you went and did your research and found that school. Oftentimes some people don't have that drive to at least say, hey, I'm just going to go.
Yeah, I've always had a drive that is incredibly frustrating at times when I have to be patient. But yeah, so I went and I did that, and it's crazy. Like I really, honestly, I don't think before that day I knew what an audio engineer was, what they did. It was just kind of one of those moments in my life where I was, like struck by God and said, I've been trying to show you, but you're not listening. So there you go. And you're doing it now, whether you understand it or not.
I feel that, yeah.
And yeah.
He works like that sometimes.
For sure. It's just like, okay, like enough of this. Like, go ahead. So
yeah.
So I went to school for being an audio engineer, and then I super pretended that I was one until I was one day.
There you go. So you just, I don't know, that saying, you grab the bull by the horns and you do whatever you need to do, you conquer.
Yeah, for sure. All you do is the secret sauce to making anything happen for you is to never stop talking to anyone who's willing to speak to you about it until it happens.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, that's good advice. And that's the way sometimes people have to do. So sometimes you got to do that, not to give up. And, and I'm really like proud of people who don't give up, rather than somebody who's just like, oh, life is ending. Oh, I can't, go find something. There's always something, and that's the importance of also knowing yourself a little bit.
For sure. I think like you bringing that up, there's a difference between quitting and giving up. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I've quit a lot of things, and like you said, I became a platinum award-winning mix engineer. I've traveled the world. I've worked with artists, from Dick Van Dyke to Post Malone.
Yeah,
and like everything in between. And then one day I had to walk away from all of that, which has led me to where I am now and what I'm doing, and the lessons like that I've learned by burning out in that fashion after having achieved all of my dreams. But I didn't give up, because your career isn't your life.
Amen.
Not like your career isn't your life. And so often, and I mean, my career was completely tied to my life. Mm-hmm. So it was really crazy breaking my identity away from music to like come back to myself. But I can really like look at my life, and I've always known who I was, like, and that keeps getting deeper, right, of my understanding, because but I could always tell like there were these walls in between me and really being who I was, because I was trying to appease other people. What I learned through my burnout was that I was searching to prove my worth. Like, I just didn't feel like I didn't love myself because I didn't feel like I was deserving of love. Right. And the only place that comes from is from yourself. So I was just out in the world. Like, I know who I am, but there's all of these other people in my brain telling me I can't be that and I'm not that. And I believed those things. And I was like, there's got to be some way that I can show and prove to them that I am and I can, So that's like, outside of loving music and, falling in love with Biggie Smalls, I wanted to help other people have life-changing moments where they knew who they were on a deeper level because they listened to some music that I helped make. Um, but I was still very driven by my insecurities more than my purpose a lot of the time, even though they would be in the room at the same time. But that's why I stay in so many toxic situations with people who treated me badly, and couldn't stop working. Why I was an alcoholic at one point, just trying to.
So you recover?
Yeah. 14 years.
Shout out, man. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, part of my story is that when I quit drinking, I actually started making all my money off of music 3 weeks later. And like, cool story, great story. But what I didn't realize was that I just traded alcoholism for overworking, right? So it was just the same thing to not feel my pain or my unworthiness or whatever, and just try to attain value that I believed that I didn't have.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate that, and that happens more than you think. I feel like I went through some of that too, except I did it for a long time. I did it for like 42 years. And I got to the point that I was like, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
Like, literally, I'm like, I'm going to die and I got to save myself. Because it was either my job, everything else that was in front of me, and that's honestly it. You talk about like how God came at you and struck you. Yes, I got knocked down. And I got up and said, "This is crazy. I need to do something." Because whatever I've been doing, this is not my life. This is not what I want for myself. And and of course, when you make those changes that other people don't like, it creates chatter here and there. I call it like noise. But what I finally realized is once you do make your decision, right, that you're worth it, that you want something better for yourself, I feel like it happens quickly. And I encourage everybody to hang on, just hang on and keep trying. Because even failures, we talked about failures, but failures, I've learned from mine.
I mean, failure is
part of growth.
It's literally just part. It's just part of life. Like, there's zero people who like receive no failure in their life. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't happen. But again, it's like there's so many things in the human experience that people label as bad.
Yeah.
Like, that you don't want to happen to you. But they're inevitable in the human experience. Just like, it's hard to say that nothing is bad, right? Because there are awful things in life that happen to people,
to good people,
for sure. And saying like everything happens for a reason, like, really diminishes some of those experience and things like that. But I will say there aren't bad emotions, right? There's nothing wrong with being angry. There's nothing wrong with being sad. There's nothing wrong with failure. There's nothing wrong with feeling embarrassed. There's nothing wrong with feeling jealous. Like, there's nothing wrong with feeling these things. They're just like indicators of what's going on inside of you, the same as joy and awe and triumph and happiness and all of that stuff. Everything is just indicators of what's going on, and there's nothing we can like stop from happening to us. I guess that's not like 100%. Nothing is 100% true, first of all.
Right. Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
let's just be clear, like nothing is 100% true. We can always like throw something else at another perspective, and that is like a
Correct.
conundrum of life, a
Correct.
paradox. Everything is a paradox. Um but yeah, just like there are things that inevitably are going to happen in life that we'd rather not have happen, but I just believe like that's what we came here for.
Mm-hmm.
So doing the best you can to embrace those things instead of trying to like shun them away, because you can't really. All the time you think you're running from your problems,
Mm-hmm.
they literally just exist right
Mm-hmm.
here. They just
Yep.
exist right here, and you're just not looking at them, and they're just trying to tell you something,
Yeah.
and you're not listening.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I talk to myself.
We're always
Like
talking to
seriously,
ourselves.
like I could be coming up the steps and I maybe procrastinating about something for several days, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, okay, go do that right now. Get it out of the way because it's going to take 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Like little things like that. And so I think, I think we're really, I mean, we do tend to be hard on ourselves, but I think we have a life, right? We were giving this life, and it's our, I always used to tell excuse me, students, I always used to tell them, you have to be your own cheerleader.
Mm-hmm.
You have to cheer yourself on. You can't expect other people to cheer you on because other people could be in different places or other people may not be capable of cheering you on. You know what I mean? So you have to do that. And that's something I learned along the way too, because I always felt like if you know I'm good, you should celebrate me. No, you have to celebrate yourself. It's almost like, and I know that that may sound corny or whatnot. You have to throw yourself a party and celebrate yourself and says, you know what, this week I was able to get through it, and just for the heck of it, let's go out to eat, and do little things like that because life is tough. And you were talking about, there are things, right? We have many things in common just as humans. We're here. Those of us who are alive,
We're humans.
right? We're humans,
So yeah,
right?
we have a lot in common.
Right. But we're here on borrowed time.
Yeah.
We're going to be gone. That's just like facts. And if you would have told me, I don't know, like 5, 8 years ago that I would talk about death in that way, I've learned to the contrary. When I lost people, I learned. When I went through cancer and I got in remission, I learned that life can be short, but we have to do everything possible to make ourselves happy and joyful while we're here, because the one thing we do all have in common is that at one point we won't be here.
For sure.
Yeah.
You're alive until you're not. That's how it goes. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's about enjoying your life even when it's difficult, like, and when I'm talking about the things that are going to happen to you, like, yeah, you're going to lose people, like in all the ways that you can lose people, like in all the ways that you can lose people. And you're going to change. You're going to walk away from people.
Mm-hmm.
When you go through like healing journeys and stuff, people will always tell you, oh, when you go through it, like you're going to lose a lot of people. And that's true because you're a different version of yourself. Sometimes your new version triggers them, or they're just like, this is why I was here. But also, nobody told me I was going to wake up one day and be like, wow, I actually don't like these people.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've loved them for quite some time, but I don't think I like them. Actually.
Yeah.
It's such an interesting, journey. But yeah, learning to enjoy your life, like that's how I define success at this point.
Heck yeah. That's powerful. Yeah, absolutely. It's what gets you up in the morning. It's what gets you through the day. And again, like knowing your worth, knowing that, hey, like you were taking, as we just discussed, losing people or you walking out on them or vice versa, and it just happens and you got to adjust. And though, if you lose somebody who, let's say, oh, well, they really meant a lot, well, they have to make up their mind as of when are you ready to talk, versus others that, I honestly, I keep a small circle, a quiet life. I kind of like it. I've learned how to, like, just a lot of that noise that gets in your head, just like, what are you talking about? I'm not here. What are you talking about? And I've learned to say no, but that's a struggle for me still. I've learned, like, because part of me is like, yeah, I'll help you out. And it's like, wait a second, you can't, you just recuperated from your back. Like, oh, yeah, yeah, I can't do that. And then you feel guilty. Oh, I can't help you. So those kind of things, are also part of the journey, and at the end of it all, it's also having boundaries, having those boundaries, revisiting them. I feel sometimes we say we have boundaries, but they're 12 years old and we haven't revisited. And then we don't realize how come we ended up in a toxic relationship. And it's like, oh,
Sure. Well, the inner compass is really about always checking in with yourself and always knowing what's going on. Boundaries change from person to person. Um, yeah, what you're willing to do, yeah, changes per person, the capacity you have. I think building capacity to feel guilty,
mm-hmm,
like, and just like, I feel guilty, but this is still the right thing
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
to do, is honoring yourself, not betraying yourself. That's really important. But a lot of people don't have the capacity to be uncomfortable, even with themselves, with anybody. It's a difficult thing. That's why people don't have hard conversations that they need to have that would actually bring them closer together if they could just sit in the uncomfortableness of it all. Or we could just
yep,
learn that we're not for each other, and then we could sit in the uncomfortableness of that all. You know what I mean? Um, but yeah, no, look, I talk about this a lot too. We change every day.
mm-hmm,
We change every single day. Some things changes more deeply than other things. Again, there are things that are going to happen one day suddenly that are going to change you deeply forever, that you're never, I don't even like the phrase you're never going to be able to come back from, because there's nothing to come back from,
mm-hmm,
just to move forward
yes,
in this new reality and new chapter that you now live in,
mm-hmm,
right? But we change every day.
yeah,
Like, little things change us. We're always growing, and people are so fixated on, like, staying the same and staying, but,
yeah,
like, it's just, like, literally impossible, even on, like, molecular levels. You know what I mean? So just embracing that, and some days I have more, some days I have less, but I'm always checking in with myself and communicating, and if we have the right kind of communication with people, of, like, say you have a boundary, but it's like, somebody who's, really part of your community, like somebody you really love, but they, like, really need you, right? Then they could be like, yo, like, I know, because sometimes we have to show up
mm-hmm,
when we do have 20%, because our people need us,
mm-hmm.
right? So
But it's exhausting.
it's
I
and
find it. I
complicated.
find it exhausting. I always used to categorize myself as an introvert, and then some
Mm.
people say you're an introvert. I says, yeah, but that you only know me because you got to know me. Other than that, it's that initial, like, I'm an introvert, but now there's this otrovert, othervert.
Okay.
I said it in Spanish, otro. Where I'm like, maybe I'm more like that. Like, it depends on who I'm around. It depends the energy you're bringing in. It depends the respect that you're giving me. Because if I'm not getting stuff like that, if I'm being ignored, I'll get up and I'm like, all right, have a good day. And that's
Mhm.
something I've learned because I used to just sit there and absorb all that negative energy. And so I would be like, okay, I'm done here. Like, let's go. And maybe that's ADHD. I don't know, but I know some people have either made jokes about, which is, I find it funny, or criticize me for leaving early. And I'm like, but if you knew me, if you truly know who I am, I leave early all the time.
For sure.
you
I mean,
know,
and that's just, yeah, you gotta take care of you. If people are draining you, you know,
got to go replenish. And
yeah,
you're right. Sometimes we have to show up for, especially for the people who show up for us,
for sure.
for that, because I have a small circle, but when I need something, I have people who truly like show up, and I'm more than grateful. And I feel if I was under different circumstances, I wouldn't have that. And so, sometimes when, like, I'm going to say God takes away people from your circle, they bring other people in that better fits what you're trying to accomplish in your life, in your journey, whether it's friendship, with just friendship, just a BFF, just, you know, somebody to ride around with, so.
For sure. Yeah, for people to meet you wherever you're at.
But I that's something I learned, because I feel like, oh, that thing about the cup full and then you have to pour into other people. I says, my cup has to be overflowing before I can pour into somebody, because I had a lifetime of pouring when my cup wasn't full, and I got really sick. And, I went through a lot of stuff, and I now realize that no, you have to help yourself first before you can help somebody else. I mean, yes, if you have a little bit, of course, like that is not crazy. Or what do you need a ride? I'll take you. Something like you need $3,000. I'm not sure about that. Like, but I've learned those little things, and I feel like even though I had a lifetime of work, and I retired. And by the way, I retired from the school you went to in Northampton.
Yeah, okay.
But it was like, it was kind of that thing, like, oh my God, like, I gotta leave. I had already been planning my retirement, but I'm like, I need to leave earlier. And that's what I did. And just like you did when you had all your success, and you went through, when you moved to LA, and became a platinum award winning artist. It's, it was like, it was difficult. Even though I knew I had to leave and I had to retire, I was like, oh my God, what is my life going to be now? Like, right?
Yeah.
How's it going to work out? So, we have, yeah, different things. I have these cards because I like to break them up. I'm an educator, right? So it's like,
Okay.
don't mind that they look like I put my logo here, but they look like little kids. But it's kind of like a break. Let's pick a
Okay.
card and let's say what it says. If you can answer, you can pick it anywhere.
Okay.
I don't know what it is.
It says, if you could change one thing about our classroom, what would it be?
Go ahead, grade me.
I don't know. Our classroom. You could get a couple lights over there.
Okay. I do have them, but they're not on. But yeah, I'm gonna pick one. Let's see. What is your least favorite chore? Lord, all of them. I mean, I can cook and I can throw down, and I'm a clean person, so I do dishes and whatnot. I probably would prefer to cook than to do laundry, even though laundry is so easy as just putting it in the washer.
I hate doing laundry.
But I just the folding of it, it
Yeah.
just
Putting
becomes
it away.
like a big pile of stuff that I don't want to touch. So that would be my least. So there we have something in common. So let's talk about like where you're going now, like in what direction you're going. We know you have, your book. How are you using that? Who is it for? And I know you mentioned a little bit about that. Are you going to be in any like because you're also a keynote speaker, so you go to schools. Anybody who'll call you because you want to to talk about your journey and the things you do. Where are you with that within the next, let's say, couple of months or so? Like, are you?
Am I?
Like, are you going to be traveling? Are you like,
Yeah, actually, I do have a gig out in Oregon in the beginning of April. I'm also going to be doing an event, a mindfulness thing at Kutztown
okay, that's cool.
on the 23rd.
I graduated from KU.
Cool, cool.
Yeah.
I have something in Rhode Island in June,
Okay.
talking at a summit for high school kids. And yeah, working on other, situations. It's definitely a difficult road to reestablish yourself in a new thing, and especially when, I mean, it's just, yeah, it's just different. It's just difficult to be doing a new thing, and it's not exactly like the studio. The studio, there are always studios happening. People need a studio session like 3 hours from now, and they call me, and then I have something to do that night. But that's not like how it works with talking and
Mm-hmm.
creating workshops and
Correct.
events. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like that takes an incredible amount of planning sometimes. Like the thing in Oregon, oh my gosh, I've been talking to these people for 2 years before,
Wow. Yeah.
it finally happened. So, it just takes a lot of time. It took me 2.5 years to write the album and the book. And then finally get them out, which is, it's great to have the physical copies and like the actual product to show people. So yeah, being a speaker and performing. So I go in between speech and the music, going to colleges, high schools, mental health centers, recovery
Mm-hmm.
centers, rehabs, stuff like that, to share my story in that kind of way. Apparently libraries
Mm-hmm. Yes.
are
Yes,
actually
they
a
do. They
really,
bring speakers.
they
Yeah.
bring speakers, like, and they can have a book signing with that.
Mm-hmm.
And they have budgets for it
Oh,
apparently.
that's so cool.
Yeah, so that's just something I learned very recently. So
Do it. Do it.
yeah, like I'm like
I would
library
love.
tour. Just trying to get my name out there in this way, and it's just like it's really interesting because I'm also still, you know 2.5 years from this breakdown. Awakening is a short time.
Mm-hmm.
So, as clear as things have gotten, there's also always continually more questions of what it means. So, I'm just like constantly being like, oh, gosh, more to dive into, more to learn. How do I really want to experience my life?
Mm-hmm.
You know, um, and not be beholden to the system, that we're made to believe we must be.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of things, there's a lot of things to unpack there, let me tell you. Um, and like,
Part two.
for sure, what that looks like, I think, like, yeah, I have this book, and what I'm talking about is self-awareness and getting to know yourself and really being able to like choose your life and listen to yourself. And it's really like a spiritual journey.
Mm-hmm. And I feel that from your channel. I've been looking at your YouTube
Mm.
channel and, watching some of the stuff you've been putting on. I honestly, I don't know if, I think, yeah, you could, because you mentioned the book. I was going to say, I don't know if it's old or new, but you do mention the book. And
Yeah.
guys, she's Immaculate Mindset on YouTube. You're also on Facebook. I'm sorry. You're on Instagram and TikTok.
I'm not on TikTok
You're not on
anymore.
TikTok. Cut
No.
that out. I know.
Yeah,
I'm thinking of doing that too,
these
but
are also, and but those are some of the hard decisions like that you have to
yeah,
make to see like,
it's so much too.
what's
Like, yeah.
aligned with you, and it is a lot, like, and I keep thinking about yeah, how to like build real community,
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. Um but yeah, it's all spiritual. And like, if you look in my book, I have a 7 layers why exercise, and you could do it with anything, but it's seven. You ask yourself why 7 times.
Mm.
So let's see if I can remember like exactly how it went. So, why are you doing the Immaculate Mindset? Because I don't want people to hurt. Why don't you want people to hurt? Because I know what it felt like to do that. Why? Because I didn't feel like I was enough. Why? Because my parents or no adults in my life, instilled in me that I was enough. Why? Because nobody in their life instilled in them that they were enough. So
Yeah.
why do you want to do the Immaculate Mindset? Well, to help people break their generational trauma, break these cycles that have been continually passed down to us. And there's, and as I dive deeper into the work, I mean, it's not even just your family. Like, I mean, this is, oh, now welcome to Allie going on the crazy train. But like there's so many, that's when I talk about like the systems and the cycles and the things that have been ingrained in us that are just not true.
Right.
And like really breaking those things down. And so I want to help people do that for themselves. I want to help them do it for their families. So for the generations that are going to come after us, I want to, we're planting seeds and doing things right now that, we're not going to see the final outcome of. We're planting the trees we're never going to get to sit under. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And being okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
Like people will ask me, what do you want your legacy to be? And I'm like, my legacy is that I said and did things that changed people, that helped them change people. And eventually down the line, people are going to say things or do things based off of things that I created and I said, and they're going to have no idea that I ever said it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the more it's hard work. It's like really
Everything's work. And
right.
Everything's work. And it's not easy. Sometimes we think, my mom used to say, oh, come here, help me 5 minutes. I'm like, that's going to take 3 hours, That's, you have to be patient with yourself too.
For sure. You can't just, it's like, oh, I want to start doing these 7 new habits today. You can't do that. So, the breaking of cycles and systems and having to look at yourself and the difficult stuff and having to, see the things that you're not exactly proud of and learn to love them and be okay with them and move forward is all difficult work that a lot of people don't really want to do. But that's what really feels like my purpose in helping people do that work with themselves. And like, I truly believe that the more of us that are open to that and doing the difficult things, the better the world will be.
Absolutely. Totally agree. I mean, mic drop. Like, I don't even know what to say because, I'm right there with you. I think, life is a journey itself and people need to embrace it, and try to do the best that they can to be better. Like, that's my one thing. How can I be better? And sometimes I fail at that the next day, I curse somebody out. Like, while I was driving, I'm like, yo, that was unnecessary. I'll call my own self out. I'm like, that was unnecessary. Like, why did I do that?
Yeah.
Because oftentimes, when we get frustrated or when, we want these quick turnaround things at work, I feel that emotion, because we have lots of them, but that one emotion, like you get angered. And when you get angered, you waste so much energy. Like, I know.
Depending on how you use it, but
I know I'm just like, ugh. And I was like, so I've had to learn how to balance that too. Like, stop being angry. I've gotten less angry. Not saying I'm but
no, sure. I mean, I totally understand. Like, I've dealt with like a lot of anger in my life, and a lot of it was useless. I wasn't using it right. I was just wanted to be angry, and to stay in that because that's the thing I knew, and that was easier than forgiveness, moving forward, trying to figure out why I was really angry, and then having to be like, oh, I see how I actually created that situation, so I would end up angry. Cool. You know?
Angry at yourself, right? That's the
Yeah.
worst part.
No,
Sometimes you're like angry at yourself.
no, for sure. I mean, most of, like, yeah, when I'm talking about a situation of like, oh, I made that happen. Like the whole time I really wasn't angry at that person. I was angry at me because I could have taken steps for it to happen differently, and I just didn't. And now I have to take accountability for that. Now I might have to repair a situation, or maybe I have irreparably um, ruined a relationship.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And right, it could have been an easy or not, so difficult situation where you could have saved that. I've been through all that kind of stuff, and yeah, none of it is easy. Sometimes it still lingers, and sometimes it comes to the point. Like there was a time, like I went on a journey, right, for peace. I need peace. There's so much chatter. There's like the gossip and all of that, and I went on a journey. Like I just want peace. How do I get peace? And it just went through steps. And no, I got it 3 years later. It didn't happen right away. It had little bits, just like, okay, I'm on the right track. And then something would happen and I'm back and I'm like, oh man. So, okay, I'm on the right track. But once I did receive it, I felt like you just have this, it's almost like certain things don't bother you as much as they did. Certain people don't bother you as much as they did. um, I look at things differently. I'm not going to bark at the cashier because maybe it's not her fault that the item got marked wrong, things like that, where we see that
Sure.
every day, like somebody being nasty, like in front of everybody. And so I just learned, and I was patient, and patience, that was hard.
Patience sucks.
That was freaking hard, man. I was just like, what the fuck? Can we? I'm like, but it was, I find that just like I got that shock, that truck came and hit me and said, you need to do something about your life because I don't think you're gonna survive if you keep going that way. The same way that shock, it hit me, and it was like, okay, like I have felt that, and not just now. I felt that, uh, many years ago too. Because at one point I didn't want to talk to my dad, and it was like, but it came that quickly where it was like, okay, I'm over it. Like, sometimes you have to
Yeah.
accept people for who they are and love them for who they are.
Mm.
Um, of course, the same thing doesn't apply to everybody, right?
Of course.
Because there's different lived experiences, and with those experiences, it could be like bad things happening. In my case, it was just that, I wanted my dad to be more engaged, I guess, and he wasn't. So, but I learned, as quickly as I like separated and did that, I learned, I'm like, he is who he is. He's not a horrible guy. So I have to accept him, because once I accepted that, then I didn't I didn't have that animosity, and I wasn't feeling that anger anymore. So little things like that.
No, for sure. Yeah, little things like that. Yeah, that's a little thing. Yeah, especially with our parents and stuff. I definitely had a similar, situation. Carried around a lot of anger at my mom for a very long time. And but the thing is, when you like really become aware and you gain an understanding, you are then just changed. This is a way that you change, right?
Yes.
And like when you've allowed yourself, now I have this understanding, and it's like it's not about not having the emotions. It's not about not getting mad. It's just about not getting stuck in being mad, right?
Yes, correct.
It's about people say let it go. Don't let anything go. Invite it in. And please alchemize it and work your way through it and use it for what it is. But yeah, I read this book, and it just like made me understand, like, this was so huge, not even just for my mom, but to understand, like, the things that she did to me or said to me when I was a kid. They weren't about me. They were about how she felt about herself, and part of the things that were passed down to her from my grandmother. And it was just like, oh, as soon as I understood it wasn't about me,
Yeah.
and I was like, okay, so, like, and however I want my mom to love me, she might not ever be able to do that. Um, but it's like I never didn't think that my mom loved me, like, but she could only love me in a certain
Yeah.
capacity,
Yeah.
and just like becoming okay with that. And, even when I decided that I was going to start like talking about all of this stuff, I realized like I had to talk to my parents because I was going to start saying this stuff on podcasts, like I'm saying it right now.
Yeah.
And I was like, I have to talk to them and let them know that I'm
Yeah.
doing this. They might not agree with everything, but I can't just like lie to them and blindside them, with stuff. And like I had this conversation with my mom, and she actually opened up like more than I thought she would. And she told me, Allie, like all I wanted to do was not treat you the same way that my mother treated me, and I ended up just doing the same thing. And it was crazy though, because my God, I just wanted that to hear that my whole life, right? But it just didn't. When it happened, I was like, okay, it didn't really mean anything to me because I just had forgiven her.
Yes. Right. You moved forward.
Yeah,
And
I
so,
moved forward in it. And now like sometimes we have like harder conversations. She says some stuff. I'm like, yo, that's crazy. I was like, that's crazy. Like, we gotta like examine this. And maybe like, for like an hour or so, I'll be like, that was crazy. Like,
yeah,
I can't believe she said that. You know what I mean? But that's it.
yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's not even like that. It's almost just like a little bit like, oh gosh, that was nuts.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't believe that. But I don't take it in. It doesn't.
I have found that, because I think I speak to and even in some of the other episodes we talk a little bit about this, about like the traumas, people's traumas, and how they don't know how to work through them, so then they're passing that shit onto the next generation, and so forth and so forth. And hey, this is why we're here. But also finding, being in a place where you can forgive people. And forgiveness, they always say, well, it's not for them. It's like, somebody hurt you, okay, they were a jerk. Somebody disrespected you, they were a jerk. But at the other time, maybe they didn't have the skills to move forward. Maybe those are the people that are stuck. They didn't have the skills to pass on. And I feel like some of us, like I feel like from Generation X on, we've figured out a lot of stuff on our own.
No, for sure. I mean, what we're talking about, on this on this podcast right now, if it was 1965, we couldn't really be talking about this, and like everyone in the room would be like, yo, what are you doing? Like,
we'd be arrested for something.
Yeah, just like crazy stuff. So, but I can see, when I moved back from LA, like I stayed with my parents, and it was important for me to be who I was with them now. And like see what that meant and how much further, we could take this thing. And I can see like even just, I didn't really know like a whole lot about my family prior to like my grandparents really, but I can still see how my mom did her part of breaking the cycle.
Okay. Yeah.
Like it's different. It's still different, from my grandmother, in a lot of different ways. So I could still see how she did her part, and I could see how my grandmother did her part.
Yeah.
Right, in getting us here, even though like I might not be pumped about it. I'm like, it could have been better. There were a lot of ways it could have been better, but you worked with what you had.
Find the good.
Right.
And you can't diminish what people did, even if it was this much. You know what I'm saying? Maybe that was all they were capable of doing.
Right.
At that time.
Yeah.
On a different day, maybe it would have been different. But, yeah, those are the kind of things that we're all learning from, and I welcome that, and I love to hear that people are getting help. They've figured out that they needed to change, because I know change isn't easy for everybody, but change can be great. It can be so uplifting, and so one of the things that I like when I look in the mirror, I make sure I check myself, like literally, like, what the hell are you up to? What are you doing today? Okay. And some things I can't do, because like when I send you like the date for here, what happened to me was I was out. I couldn't walk for 14 days.
Oh
Like,
wow.
I was on medication. I could barely put one foot, like I had to get a walk. I ended up in the air, one foot in front of another. And then so I'm like, but that's not gonna stop me from giving you a date, and I'm hopefully I'll be fine by then, and that's how I do. So you have to find your way, and what works for you and what works for people is different, right? That's why
Absolutely.
I say, like, live a life well lived through the magic of doing what you love, but that is different for everybody. What you do and the love you have for it, and how deep it is. But I want to thank you for being here and sharing all the wonderful things that you're up to, but in particularly that you are available
Mhm.
as a
Yes.
keynote speaker.
Hmm.
You have a book out,
I do.
and it's The Inner Compass, and it's linked to a album that you released.
Mhm.
And I love the whole connection. And I'm going to have all that information when we release this for people to, contact you if they have. And honestly, I have some people, I know some people in higher ed here and there.
Mhm.
I'm gonna see, like, you know if there's anybody I can connect you with. Like, I can't promise nothing, because people change. I've been out of the work scene for 2 years already. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, because I think it's important for students and people, teenagers, and people within young adults, to be able to see that yes, things can be done, and yes, sometimes it's not pretty, but you can still accomplish a lot, and you can, and talk about success, right? It could be different for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. I also mentor, coach one-on-one
That's right. Yes.
with people as well. But yeah, if anybody has any connects to any schools, anywhere, mental health organizations, anything, I'm still and always talking to anyone who's willing to talk to me about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
But yeah, thank you
Yeah.
so much for having me.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. This has been great, and I'm signing off. So peace out, and have an amazing day.